All right. Before we start, just make sure you're comfortable. Lights low, volume up, phone face down if you can. Tonight, I've got a few Reddit stories that people probably wish they never posted. Thanks for coming back, and if this is your first time here, welcome. You're safe, at least for the next few seconds. Let's start with the first story.
I'm staying in a town where everyone seems obsessed with someone called Mr. Jangles. People say small towns hold on to their stories longer than they should. If that's true, then I'm sure Maywood Mills has white-knuckled its grip on theirs. You probably haven't heard of this place. I don't blame you. I hadn't either, not until a couple of weeks back. And now that I'm here, I understand why. It's as if the rest of the world quietly agreed to forget Maywood Mills ever existed, and my gut says the town prefers it that way. As I write this, I've locked myself in a rented room above a bar. It reeks of dried liquor and bleach in here. I'm trying my best not to think about the people who stayed here before me, or what they did between these walls. If that wasn't enough, the neon sign outside my window keeps sputtering in and out, painting the room sickly green. It's going to give me an epileptic seizure any minute now. I also jammed a chair under the doorknob, as I was instructed, just to be sure. Before I go to bed, I'm going to try to lay out everything that's happened in the last 24 hours. I apologize if I sound dramatic. I've covered some dark shit in my life, met a lot of broken people. But honestly, I'm lost. I've never seen anything like this. I can usually tell if there's a rational spine running through a story within the first hour of digging into it, but here, I can't find it. There's a legend buried in this town, a story that's been told so many times it seems to have hardened into truth. Yeah, the story doesn't just seem to live here, it seems to fester. It's easier if I start from the beginning. It was Carla who found the town first, my colleague. She drove in yesterday, texted me the route, said she'd find a place to stay. We were supposed to drive up together, but life happened, I guess. I screwed things up, that's the short version. I ended up spending the night in the hospital. Broken arm, 3 places. Don't ask. Anyway, I said I'd meet here in the morning instead. Our plan was simple. Find Maywood Mills, dig into the string of disappearances that had plagued the area for nearly 2 decades, and more than anything, reopen the case that once had the town in the papers. Nadine Willis, 13 years old, 1998. Poor girl had been stabbed many times, more times than anyone who worked the original case ever felt comfortable saying out loud. The photos speak for themselves. They found her laid out on a flat rock deep in the woods. Whoever did it didn't even try to hide their work. There were no leads. Cops couldn't name any suspects, which left the community without any answers. Rumors took over, that buzzing hearsay that creeps in when humans realize they don't know what's lurking. Like the atmosphere itself wants you to shrink, to stay small, to forget there's a world beyond the woods. Nobody says it out loud, but you can feel the rules immediately. Dreaming is illegal here. Curiosity is an offense. They don't like people leaving, and they like people arriving even less. That's what kills the dream for me. Not the isolation, not the decay, the people. As I drove in, nobody waved, nobody smiled. They just watched me roll past, faces blank and weathered, carved like worn gravestones. All that was alive were their eyes, full of resentment, and something else, something heavy I couldn't place at first. Suspicion, grief, maybe fear? Or maybe it was just the big yellow letters FBI on my jacket that spooked them. Maywood Mills itself didn't offer much to look at. A couple dozen houses, most of them sagging or boarded up, a handful of stubborn businesses clinging to life. There was a school and a church that seen better days, and of course, a bar, as if the depressing atmosphere wasn't poisonous enough. However, there was one thing that really caught my attention: the graffiti. Spray painted across abandoned storefronts, rusting garage doors, and brick walls was the same image over and over. A face,
a crude drawing of a tall, skeletal figure in a long coat and top hat. His eyes were black, empty hollows. On some of the portraits, he was almost a skull. Then he had this wide, childish grin that stretched ear to ear. It really got under my skin for some reason. Most of the time, he was drawn holding a ring of keys. Not a few keys like the ones you and I own. No, it was a massive, jangling hoop of them. If you remember the key maker from The Matrix, you'll know exactly what I mean. I parked outside the bar. The whole building looked like it was one good gust away from collapsing. I doubted they'd cleaned the taps since the Reagan administration. But hey, beer is beer, and I'm not picky. Plus, I noticed they rented out rooms upstairs. If Carla was anywhere in this town, odds are she'd be here. The very moment I stepped inside, the ongoing conversations died.
"We already know who did it," she said. "Who?" She nodded past my shoulder. "He's right behind you." I turned. Out the window, across the cracked parking lot, sprayed across the brick wall, that painted face stared right back at me. "That?" I said, trying not to sound amused. "You're saying that thing killed Nadine?" She nodded. One of the drunks, a handyman, barked a laugh and swiveled on his stool. "Hell, he's behind all the weird shit that happens around here. Half this town swears they've seen him, especially after a few drinks." He laughed. So did his friends. Lucy leaned a little closer, voice low enough to cut under the noise. "Ignore them. They've been here since breakfast, but unfortunately they're not wrong." She held my gaze. "I'm sorry, Agent, but you're chasing a ghost." I didn't know what to say. Lucy pointed toward a map taped beside the register and showed me the quickest route to the nearest motel, said Carla might have checked in there. It felt like a nice and subtle way of saying, leave. So I didn't. There were vacant rooms upstairs, nothing close to 5 stars, but if Carla had checked into some motel miles away for a bit of luxury, she had another thing coming. This town is where the conversations were. This was where work was. So instead of heading for the door, I ordered steak and eggs and a room for the night. While Lucy disappeared into the kitchen, the handyman peeled himself off his stool and shuffled over. He was in his mid-40s with a bloated red face, breath sour with Miller Lite. He sat down beside me without asking. "His name's Mr. Jangles," he said, jerking his chin toward the fogged window. "Nadine Willis was his first. Back in '98, all the kids said it was him. Lives out in the woods past the dam. Nobody ventures out there alone anymore." "Mr. Jangles?" I repeated, trying not to let the skepticism show too much. "That's right. That's what they called him. They say he has keys to every house in Maywood. That's how you know he's close. You hear him." He mimed the sound, shaking his wrist a little. Ch-ching, ch-ching, ch-ching. More barking from his friends. I looked back through the window at that damned face, the top hat, the smile, the black, empty sockets. I have to admit, it creeped me out a little. "So the Bureau's chasing campfire stories now?" he asked, squinting. I let the question hang. "Urban legends don't bother me. Lies do," I said eventually. "We're here for the truth." He let out a dry smoker's chuckle and tapped the bar with his dirty finger, right on the badge I'd left resting beside my glass. "Might want to get that fixed," he said. "It's chipped." I glanced down. He wasn't wrong. The edge was scuffed, the cheap laminate curling just a little. I palmed it without saying anything. Lucy came back and set the plate down in front of me. "If you're serious about digging into this," she said, "talk to Mrs. Willis. She's still out on the edge of town. Pink House. You can't miss it. She keeps to herself." She hesitated, then added, "And do me a favor, don't tell her I sent you." I finished my food and headed back out. The sky looked bruised, like the rain was thinking about coming back. I followed Lucy's directions along a cracked road, snapping a few photos of Mr. Jangles on the way. I couldn't wait to hear what Carla would make of all this. Lucy was right. The house was impossible to miss. Faded pink siding, shutters hanging crooked.
Even in the middle of the afternoon, the curtains were drawn. The yard was crowded with the remains of a life that used to be loving and busy.
All right, we'll stop here for tonight. If any of these stories stuck with you, that's normal. Some things don't fade the moment the screen goes dark. Thanks for spending this time with me. And if you're listening late at night, just remember to check the locks. I'll see you next time.